all the words are like directly at the back of your voice box. You've already thought them. They've already come to your mind. You've already formulated the beginnings of the sentence in the back of your head. And when you go to open up your mouth, nothing comes out. Shyness, fear of confrontation, petrification, intimidation, insecurity that holds you back from opening up your mouth is a trick that stands between you and use.
This is the moment you've been waiting for. Everything that you've been praying for. You felt alone. You're gonna heal and come back strong. I know what you got. God got you. Your girls, we're here. We're with you. This is your battle. I know you're about to come back better. God don't miss. You're ahead. This is it. Come back, sis. I know the whole world told you. Come back, sis. You aren't enough, but you are. Come back, sis. This is your battle. I know you're gonna come back better. God don't miss. You're ahead. This is it. Come back, sis.
This has been the most exciting, interesting, crazy journey, like putting myself back out in front of people. People think that because you sing, you're brave, but really you're not brave because you're not really saying anything. You're not making a stance. You're not talking about what you believe in. You're not standing for justice or injustice or peace or better schools. Like you're not doing anything when you sing except singing songs. The songs are already written. Everybody who's coming usually already knows the words. So if anybody hates the song, they're probably not going to buy a ticket. And they're probably not coming to see the event, the performance, the show, whatever it is, concert. Whereas if you're just opening up your mouth to say some words, you don't know what somebody's going to think after you say them. Like you literally have no idea what the response or the reaction is going to be. You can read the room and kind of gauge, but if you've decided in a particular moment to say what you think, you're taking a risk. I thought for the longest time that I was really shy. The people who know me the most or the closest know that I've said, oh my gosh, if there's a lot of people, just stand next to me because I'm shy. What I've realized is that I've been in the public eye for such a long time that I'm used to not saying what I think, because if I say what I think, I'm going to get a big reaction. Not a reaction of me just one-on-one with a friend, but a reaction of maybe 100 or 1,000 or 10,000 people. I've learned that I'm not actually shy. I learned that I've just been petrified. Being petrified is similar to shy because you kind of get stuck in this little standstill where you know everything that you want to say, but you refuse to open up your mouth and say it. All the words are like directly at the back of your voice box. You've already thought them. They've already come to your mind. You've already formulated the beginnings of the sentence in the back of your head. And when you go to open up your mouth, nothing comes out. That's what happens to me in front of people. I was calling that shy, and that is a trait or a kind of way that people would describe shy. But being petrified is when you know why you're being shy. Now you have control over whether or not you're going to say the thing or not based on the fact that you're scared. I have been so scared to open up my mouth. Petrified. Over the last couple of months, not even years, but literal months, God has been introducing me to incredible women who have been pulling my words out of me and making a safe space for me to do so. They've been pulling my words out of me in conversation and showing me that if I say what I'm thinking, I'm going to be okay. Nobody's going to hurt me if I say what I'm thinking. It has been the most refreshing experience I've had in a really, really long time. When I first set out to do this podcast, the podcast was going to be all about men. I'm not shy around men. Usually if I'm in a conversation with a man, it's usually a date or a one-on-one interaction where I'm just talking to him alone. I'm usually not talking to a large group of men. Usually if I'm talking to women, it's many women. Or oftentimes if I'm talking to women, it's many women. So men haven't put me into that space where I'm like nervous around them. I don't get as nervous around men because I'm usually just talking to them one-on-one and they receive me a little differently, or I experience them a little differently. So this podcast was originally going to be about men. It was going to be called Inside the Minds of Men. And I was going to talk about how men think. And I was going to interview men and kind of get to know their process on success, on life, etc. And something changed. My team and I were going back and forth about what the podcast would be about. Some things worked out, some things didn't. And when we finally started talking about what my personal journey actually is, I did a play on words. The words that I kept hearing in the comment section, Come Back Chris, I changed into Come Back Sis, and I let that be the name of my podcast. Then we realized, oh my goodness, you're going to have to interview and sit down with women. And I was like, I can't sit down with women. I'm not going to know what to say. I'm not going to be able to say anything. I'm going to be so scared that I'm not going to get anything out of my mouth. What am I going to ask them? And what if they ask me a question? And what if they want to hug me? And what if they want to talk back? How am I going to converse with women? When I tell you I was petrified. And so my team gathered around me and they loved on me and they walked me in and through this process. And as I began to sit down with woman after woman, I would walk away from the conversation. We would cry, and you'll see it in the episodes that are coming up. We would be in tears. We would be embracing. We would be telling each other stories about our lives. And I would be like, oh my God, I can talk. I can talk. And so sitting down with women was the beginning of me opening up my mouth and thinking about saying what I'm thinking to other people listening, watching, tuning in. We got to the podcast episodes where it would be me talking solo. And I sat down with another podcast friend and she was like, I understand how you feel about your words getting stuck in the back of your throat sometimes. But she was really honest with me. What I walked away with from that conversation was that I can't use fear as an excuse not to say what I'm thinking. That was so uncomfortable for me because it meant that I had to admit I was afraid. And then I had to admit that I had something I wanted to say. Admitting that I was afraid is the most freeing and eye-opening thing. Because when I realized that a lot of times I'm saying I'm shy, but I'm actually petrified, I realized that that method of avoiding conflict is holding me back. I think I was saying I was shy all this time to avoid conflict. And then I had to experience some parts of life where I had to face conflict head on. And I realized that conflict doesn't kill you. Conflict doesn't kill you. It feels like it will. You go in with your fists clenched. You go in with your eyes squeezed. You go in with your jaw tight and you're scared. But if you can open up your mouth and say the thing, usually it doesn't kill you. And so I started opening up my mouth and saying the things. You guys might not know when I'm scared. You guys might not know when I'm saying something and it's brave for me. You might not know that me saying I'm healed now is a big brave thing for me to say. In this world of talking to people and podcasting and being in the public eye in general, people combat every word that comes out of your mouth. You might say, hi, my name is Chrisette. And they might say, well, I'm going to Google it and see if that's really your name. I'm going to look up your history. It's like, I was definitely just introducing myself. So we live in a world that's combative, but you have to be able to face combat. You have to be able to face difficult and uncomfortable conversations. And so starting up this podcast and starting up this new journey in my life, I'm realizing that there was so much conflict that I was petrified of. Going through this last journey of my life, realizing how scared I am, I'm realizing that there was so much conflict that I was afraid to confront in my life. And not just my personal life, but on stage, backstage, walking through the airport. There are moments where somebody might say, can I have a photo with you? And the answer is no. The answer is, I'm going to miss my flight if I don't run right now. The answer is, as much as I'd like to, I don't have time. But I'm so scared to say that I just say sure. And I almost rather miss my flight than say I can't. I'm so afraid that somebody's going to think I'm a bad person or be upset with me or be disappointed with their interaction with Chrisette Michele that I just say, sure. That's fear of conflict. That's not that person's fault. They didn't do anything wrong. That's not God's fault for putting you in the seat that he's put you in. It's you, Chris. You have to learn how to say, I'm sorry, I have to run. It can be a nice way of saying no. It could be a gentle way of saying no. It could be a sweet way of saying no. But I was so afraid of those simple, easy conflicts. Hey, would you like ketchup or mustard on your hot dog? I say mustard and they make a mistake and put ketchup on. I would just eat the hot dog anyway, which is not a big deal. But it's not a big deal to go back and say, hey, I asked for mustard. Do you have any mustard packets? I was scared to do stuff like that. Like I walked through my life afraid of conflict of any sort. And that's debilitating. That makes you unable to defend yourself in any scenario, in any circumstance. As an adult, you have to be the mom for yourself that your mother no longer is. You have to be the support system for yourself that daddy no longer is. And I never gave myself that support. I never gave myself that having my own back. And so I've walked through life afraid of conflict. In the therapy space, they call that type of therapy anger management, right? Where it's like, it doesn't sound like that's an angry way to be, but the reason why people become uproarious or angry where everyone can tell is because they are so uncomfortable with the idea of conflict that they hit a wall. They hit a wall and they're up against that wall and they can't get past the wall of I have something to say to I'll say it. They get stuck at how do I say this? They get stuck at how do I say this? They get frustrated at how do I say this? And then they get angry at how do I say this? And they get so angry and they hold that anger in. Then people call that a wall. So when people would meet me, a hairstylist, a new makeup artist, a background singer, something like that, when people would meet me, they would say, she seems sweet, but she has a wall up. And they were right. I had avoided conflict for such a long time. I had been so fearful of what would happen if I said what I thought that it became this wall. It didn't look like anger. It didn't appear like anger. But in my body, it felt like this uptight, tense person who smiled, who knew how to use a soft voice, who knew how to be nice enough. And it wasn't that it was disingenuous. It was that I couldn't find a way to deal with any type of confrontation, any type of conflict, any type of conversation that made me slightly uncomfortable. And so anger management is where I learned, oh, you don't have to be angry outwardly where everyone can see it to be angry on the inside. And so I was essentially an angry person. I wasn't walking around knocking folk out, but that particular way of not being able to say what you're thinking or choosing not to say what you're thinking because you don't know how the other person is going to react and holding on to it is a kind of anger. If I'm really completely honest and transparent in this particular moment, I directed some of that anger towards God. I can't believe I'm admitting that. But in interviews, sometimes people say, were you ever mad with God? And I'm always like, no, of course not. Like, I made choices. I did this. I did that. I can be upset with myself or I can learn from my mistakes. But really, a lot of the anger that I was holding on the inside, I projected onto God. I projected on God. And I'm like, you said that I had something to say to the nations. You said that I had something to offer people. You said that I had a message to give. Why did you make people so difficult to talk to? If I'm supposed to talk to people, why are they so difficult to speak to? And so a lot of my anger was directed at God. It wasn't directed at people. I didn't, pop off. I wasn't a firecracker to people, but my prayer life was like, why would you put me in front of them? I'll bring you before great men, and I'd go before great men, and then I'd clam up and I'd be like, Lord, why would you put me in front of somebody who is so... And the truth is that every opportunity that God gave me magnified my insecurities, magnified my self-doubt, magnified my discomfort in saying what I'd been sent to say, even if the words were simple. And people would just say, oh, put it in a song. Everybody doesn't actually know where I stand. I know people know that I stand on stages, but there's this other side of my life that is backstage, that is with the president's wife. I've been backstage with Michelle Obama. I've been backstage with, I'm just making up stuff, Rick Ross. I've been backstage or behind the scenes with Malcolm Gladwell. I've been backstage behind the scenes with Angela Bassett. Like, there's a whole entire life that I live that's on the road as Chrisette Michele, but not on the stage in the spotlight. And my light has to shine backstage. My light has to shine on the plane. My light has to shine everywhere I go. And I get sent a lot of places. And I have to use my words. I can't just up and start singing to, let's make up a name, Beyonce. Hi, Beyonce. And la 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 la. Like, that's not what you're sent to do. That's weird. Use your words. And so I wasn't even using my words backstage. I remember one time I was backstage before one of my shows, and there was a knock on the side door, and I cleaned up immediately because I'm like, who's at the door? This is natural for me to just clam up when I'm going to have a one-on-one interaction. And they're like, it's Angela Bassett. And I was like, does she know I'm performing tonight? They were like, she's here to see your show. And I'm like, do you mean Angela Bassett, or is this another Angela? No, it's Angela Bassett. She's walking in now. I ran to the bathroom, petrified to meet Angela Bassett. Remember another time I was going backstage to my performance, another event in Washington, D.C., or the nearby area. And there were all these police cars all around the venue that I was performing at. And I was like, wow, man, I've really gotten pretty big to have all these police cars everywhere. This is pretty intense. Oh, my goodness. And I get backstage, and the owner of the venue comes up to me and he says, Chrisette, we couldn't tell you because it's a secret, but that's the Secret Service outside. And I'm like, wow, I am really like this. I've arrived. And he goes, Michelle Obama is coming to your show tonight. And I'm like, and it's one of those moments again where I lose my words. I can't find my thoughts. I know everything that I want to say to this incredible woman. And I said nothing when she came backstage, except, she did all the talking. She took the photos. She said, let's pose for a picture. She and her mom sat in the front row or the table in the front of me. And I couldn't find my words. Those are the moments where my light's supposed to shine. Those are the moments where I'm supposed to be who God called me to be.
So 6 figures in a day, yes, it's here, right? Now this is a real live screenshot that I personally did in my account. Now I do this live with my people meaning in my Discord that I have. And guess what? I'm not the only one making this type of money. As you see, there are people making 2, 3, 4, 500% with me, right? And what I want you to know is that this is not something that is foreign. It can be done and replicated, not just by me or a couple people who know what I know. I can teach it to you. So you want to learn what we know, you want to do what we do. I do this live. So I can't even fake it. I do it live every day that the market is open. Come join me. I got you.
Everybody talks about the stage, but nobody talks about the other places God brings us. Everybody talks about the big platform, but people forget that there are moments backstage where our light's supposed to shine. And if we're living in fear and petrification of opening up our mouths and being available for whoever it is that we meet, whoever it is that God allows us to be before, I hate to say it like this, but we don't do a good job. So podcasting sounds like a fun, trendy thing to do. But for me, it's been a godsend because I'm finding my words. I'm finding my words. And sure, I'm in the privacy of whatever hotel or place I'm staying at where we're filming. And sure, I don't have the immediate response of you telling me exactly what you think right here, right now, which, by the way, thank you for all your comments and your love. But it's an exercise for me. This is a kind of therapy for me that's allowing me to feel my words come up from my belly, through my lungs, and out of my mouth. Formulate in my mind, formulate in my heart, and be said. My podcast guests are ministering to me. I'm seeing how women express themselves And in some episodes, you'll see how I'm watching how men express themselves. And on camera or off camera, on the microphone or off, I'm watching myself get brave enough to respond to their words. You'll see me take pauses sometimes in between or in the middle of a conversation, or you'll hear me say something like, I'm gathering what you just said. And this is the safe space that I've created for myself to sort of sit into the safety of knowing what I think. If you've ever worried about the message God has given you to carry, the love or the light that God has given you to shine or to give, may I be a living witness of somebody who's been sent all over the world, who's traveled from country to country and wondered if it was okay to say something. May I be a witness that there's somebody else just like you out there who was like, oh my gosh, I want to open up my mouth, but what if they don't like what I have to say? What if they don't like the way that I talk? I was at a bar. Was that a bar where they were singing and we were in Chicago? Would you call that a bar? A lounge? A speakeasy, yeah. I'm getting chills thinking about this, but this is just in case somebody else ever has this experience, because I think it's the season of saying it. I think this is the say it season. I think this is the God gave it to you for a reason. I think this is the open up your mouth, girl era. I'm at this speakeasy and I'm sitting next to my friends. Shout out to my Chicago friends. I love you and I miss you so much. And a lady sits down next to me, and she had this long blonde hair, and she sits down and she does this with her hair, and her hair brushes my shoulder. And when her hair brushed my shoulder, I just felt what I needed to say to her. It just came to me immediately. And I turned and looked at her, and it didn't stutter because this was the beginning of me. This was right before we started filming the podcast. I turned around and I looked at her and I said, you're a speaker. I said, and you're walking into your speaking season and you're wondering if it's okay. It's going to be okay. You got this. And she put her hand on her heart and she said, oh my God. She said, I've been wondering if it's okay to say these words. I'm about to go into speaking. I've been a doctor for all these years and I'm about to walk into speaking. I said, well, you got this. Everything's going to be okay. And I held her in my arms and she said, thank you. And then she pulled back. We looked at each other and all she said was, amen, sister. And we gave each other a nice, nod, like how people do when they have a spiritual experience. And then she went back to talking to her friends and I went back to talking to mine. And I looked at Tiara and I had tears in my eyes. I said, damn it, Tiara. I think the part of me is arriving that I've been petrified about. Like, I think I'm ready to say stuff. It was so exciting and uncomfortable. But there are some of us who have words that we get and we know we're supposed to open up our mouth. And because we're nervous about what somebody might think, say, or feel, we don't say those words. I'm not just talking to people to say, or I'm not just telling you today to just start walking around and shouting at people and waving your finger. I'm saying that there's an inner knowing in some of you right now watching that knows I've got a word right now. I've got something I'm carrying right now. And this is the moment where I'm supposed to say it. Your words are meant to bless somebody. They're not just meant to sit around in your head and hang out in your mind. They're not just there for you to perseverate on. There are different kinds of pride. And one kind of pride is being so puffed up about how intellectual you are, how smart you are, how good you are with words. But if you don't use those words, then you're just puffed up on the inside. You never give anything to anybody else. And that's a kind of, I know it's fear, I know it's petrifying, but it's also a kind of selfishness. It's a discomfort in receiving what comes with having the words to say. You're not willing to make the sacrifice of sharing what God's put on the inside of you. When I got off the call with a friend of mine who's a podcaster, I remembered the words that she said. She said, oh, I'm not just saying these things and not realizing that it's a sacrifice. What I'm saying is a sacrifice. I know that it comes with a cost, she said to me. Anybody ever speak into your life and you know that they're saying something, so you just kind of want to sit still in the words that they're saying? When she told me that speaking comes with a cost, I examined myself because I admire her. I think she's really special. And in that moment, I realized that the girl that I admire goes through hell to be who God has called her to be. And after she said that and admitted that to me, I realized this is the first time in my life where I'm willing to be okay with the sacrifice of opening my mouth to speak. I've sang for years. It's been really cool. I haven't had to do anything except say what I've rehearsed or sing what I've rehearsed. These words that I'm saying today don't come with a rehearsal. There's not going to be an encore. There's not going to be a standing ovation. This is the part in my life where I'm not singing for applause. I'm not before you for applause. I'm not before you for you to clap. I'm before you because I've got a word on the inside of me. I've got words on the inside of me. Me holding back is only impeding on my own purpose. You know how they say, get out of your own way? Fear of confrontation is how I get in my way. Fear of someone's response is how I get in my own way. Fear of, is that acceptable to say? Or am I saying that in the right tone? Or will they receive my words? Is getting in my own way. Because when you've been sent to speak, to give, to offer, to share, to love, to nurture, to embrace, to hold, to center, to uplift, to motivate, to inspire, the people listening have a grace for you. The people listening have an ear for you. I've been fooled into thinking, my mom would call it a trick of the enemy, that I'm not loved. And sure, there are people who do not love me. I get it. But I've been fooled into thinking that I am so very not loved that I'm not acceptable and that I don't deserve acceptance. But guess what? Some people will love what I have to say. Some people won't. I've never worried about that with music, but with words I have. Sometimes after you heal, God reintroduces you to human connection. I didn't make that up. I didn't know that that would happen. But apparently, after you heal, you're useful again. Apparently, human connection is what it means to be useful. Your gift is literally to be given. What you've been gifted with is for other people. So if you're so broken that you can't be used, then healing is a really good idea. Once you're healed, the big surprise is it's time to meet people. It's time to connect. It's time to say hello. I didn't know that was going to happen. I thought that healing was this big, nice thing that I was doing for myself. Oh my God. And I thought that when I was finished healing, I would be comfortable in a bathing suit. I'm finished healing. I can walk outside happy. I'll feel pretty with my lipstick. I thought that when I'm finished healing, that I would just feel better. Feeling better is only half of the reward of healing. Isn't that exciting? God wants to use you. He made you for a reason. He didn't make you just so you could break and heal. He made you so that you could be of use. I just figured that out. I think I'm laughing so I don't cry in front of you. We'll work on this maybe the next time. Crying is, what's funny about crying? I remember sitting in a therapy session years back, maybe 5 years ago, and I was having all of these emotions, and this was the first therapist I met that I could tell her all the things, and she wouldn't be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened, and cry with me. She taught me how to walk through feelings and emotions for the first time. And I remember the first day I cried in front of her. I said, oh my God, I'm crying. Oh my God, I'm having an emotion. And then we began to laugh, and I said, I'm crying and I'm laughing. And she goes, you're allowed to have two emotions at once? And I remember being so afraid of feeling because I knew that if I felt, I was going to have to say what I felt. That's what healing feels like. Healing is not just a fun thing to do so that you can post about self-care and soft life. Healing is a thing that makes you feel safe to feel enough to connect to somebody else without feeling, without emotion. You don't get to experience and give empathy to somebody who needs you. We hide behind, I'm healing. We hide behind, I'm healed. Come out from behind, healing, and be of use. Now that I'm letting people in, because as I am used, I'm also receiving. Now that I'm letting people in, I'm finding out that my therapy bill is a lot less expensive. And I'm laughing because the reason it's a lot less expensive is I can talk to people and have the same experience as therapy. And these people are calling themselves friends. That's what friends are. They're free therapists. Now, I'm not saying dump all your stuff on your friends, right? But when you are so closed off and you have that wall up and you're so petrified of talking and you're afraid of confrontation and you don't know if everything that you say is going to come off the right way and you're so nervous and biting your nails and hoping that people like you after you say what you think, of course you don't have any friends. I have friends. I've always had people around me. I've always had people around me who love me, but I haven't often called those people my friends. Healing allows you to let your guard down, let people in, create friendships, and be of use to others. Shyness, fear of confrontation, petrification, intimidation, insecurity that holds you back from opening up your mouth is a trick that stands between you and use. You and being of use. I'm saying that from my own personal experiences, whether it be from running from Angela Bassett to being freaked out upon meeting Michelle Obama. Funny thing about those two interactions is at least I got to meet Michelle Obama 3 times. And by the 3rd time, I was fully awake, fully available. And we took that picture finally. You'll get another chance to be everything God's called you to be if you woke up this morning. It's another chance to be everything God's called you to be. You can leave shyness behind. You can leave fear of confrontation behind. You can leave anger and putting up a wall behind. You can leave fear of friendship behind. And you can embrace love today. You can embrace people today. You can embrace yourself today. You can embrace your words today. And you can say them. Let's do it together. If you're on YouTube and you're watching, can you do me a favor and like, comment, and subscribe? Do you know how scared I used to be to ask you to do that? So thank you. Also, I love hanging out with you guys in the comment section. So if you want to come down in the comments and say, hey, I'm totally there. But a really fun thing I want to do in and out of the comment section is I want to do a live, or not a live, I want to do a Q&A. And I want you guys to ask me anything you want to ask me, but I need you to do it via email. So can you go to your email and email me at hello@comebacksis.com. hello@comebacksis.com, and put the word questions in the subject heading. I want you to just ask me whatever it is that you want to ask. I'm not going to give you a subject or whatever, but whatever you want to ask me. And I'm going to take out some time to answer a few questions and film them and share them with you. If you're on Spotify, Apple Music, or Google, can you leave a comment or a review? That does a lot for the podcast, so I'm told. So that would be really nice. I'd appreciate it. I think that's about it. I love you guys so much. And I love you like I've been through enough to desire to give my lessons to someone else. I love you in the way that if there's anything that you can take away from my story and it help you on your journey, I'd like to share that. I'd like to offer that. So when I say I love you, that's what I mean. I mean, I love you in my actions. And I pray and I hope that today's podcast blessed you. Peace.
This is the moment you